So what if I told you your body already makes its own cannabis? It mimics a molecule that we make ourselves called anandamide, which is the bliss molecule. Menopause and hot flashes, I'm not saying it's like spot on, it's going to take care of it all, but I will say that it drastically helped with hot flashes, drastically. The world of cannabis is huge, but you know what the beautiful thing is? The world of cannabis is huge, which means this didn't work. Well, guess what? We've got at least 4 more terpenes that we can look at. The plant is so much more than THC. It's so much more than just the cannabinoids that it contains.
We are the Paradisians. We're here to make a change, creating paradise. No dream is out of range. With every step we take, we spread the light around, lifting others up, 'cause together we are bound. We live our epic lives in freedom and in joy, embracing all the wonders that this world can deploy. We are the Paradisians, and we're here to show that a net positive world is the only way to go.
Hello and welcome to Forward to Eden. I'm your host, Luciana Leithart, and today I have the great honor and pleasure to sit here with my dear friend and colleague from Net Positive Village, Kristin Mulé. And Kristin, she's a cannabis wellness coach, and I found that a super interesting profession and I wanted to learn more of. Kristin, hi, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Luciana. This is so exciting. Anytime there's an opportunity to talk about cannabis, I'm all in.
I took my CBD oil and Kristin took her vape before we got started. So we're all good to go.
We're all good to go.
Let's get started with the question, just like in 5 minutes or less. I know we like to go big and wild into our stories, but who is Kristin and what made you feel inspired to become a cannabis wellness coach?
Well, to start with the first half of that question, who is Kristin Mulé? I really going through self-discovery in the last probably 6 years, really intently. I am, like many women, a natural caregiver. I have really discovered how much of an empath I am, and navigating that world and being able to ground myself and be with someone that may be suffering in some sort of way. I trained to be a death doula as well during this time. And that is a field that I really want to lean into more in the future. And maybe that could be another video for some other day. But what brought me to be a cannabis wellness coach, it was really by accident. Or I shouldn't say that. No, it was a synchronicity, right? So I went through a big life change at the end of 2019 and left a private chef career. And in leaving that position, I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I had a background in architecture. I wasn't really sure at the time if I wanted to go back into that, but I found it as a stepping stone to, okay, we need to bring in that fiat currency, right? And in the meantime, I was really inspired to look into just general like health and wellness coaching. And there's so many programs out there. And I am saying literally ready to press the button to purchase a program, and a pop-up came up that was about cannabis coaching. And I'm like, well, what is that? And I'm like, that's interesting. I've never seen that before. And I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And why not? I'll give it a go, because it wasn't only about cannabis. It was like taking like your health and wellness coaching with, involving nutrition and movement and mindset, and adding this piece in and seeing how that all fits together. And that was very intriguing to me. At the same time, I had a friend that was at end stage of her life with cancer. And the one thing that I noticed with her is she was using cannabis. It was really, I still can't believe how long she went without like going into taking morphine at the end of life. It was like not until maybe 10 days before she passed. But what was very fascinating is that she would use cannabis in lieu of doing that so that she could be very present with people and not be just knocked out. It would help suppress her pain enough so that she could be present with anybody that was visiting. And that when all of a sudden, when that pop-up of that cannabis coaching came up, it was like, it just felt divine. Like, this is the path that I needed to go on, seeing what I had just had seen. What else can this help with? So
she did that without you guiding her towards, you just witnessed your friend doing that and you found it so fascinating, and then that popped up, and
yes,
things
well,
coming
that
together.
and that whole thing around her end of life, like when I brought up about death doula, it was the same thing. It was just, after I saw this, someone brought this up, because me and another person were sitting with her a lot, and knowing that this was actually, this is what we're supposed to be doing, right? We're supposed to be with people at the end of life and help support them and be present with them. And that came up, and the cannabis coaching came up, and I just took it as a sign, like, no, this is the path that I need to go down. And boy, what a path the cannabis coaching thing was, because the things that I have learned, they're mind-blowing. And it's mind-blowing to me how much the public doesn't know, that we don't talk about.
Beautiful. Let's change that right here, right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So firstly, I'm interested, like, what is the difference between just using it like recreationally, casually, versus using it intentionally in a wellness setting or in a health setting?
Well, being a former recreational user myself, I mean, you're not even thinking about what it is you're actually taking in. It's like everybody goes to a dispensary, or they're growing themselves, or they buy from a friend or whatever. It's predominantly THC, right? So that is just flooding your brain and it, THC, I'm going to probably get into it more later, but does contain, it mimics a molecule that we make ourselves called anandamide, which is the bliss molecule. And so there really isn't physical addiction per se with cannabis, but there can be, emotional addiction. And, there's so many other cannabinoids that come into this that really balance it out, where you can take this every day, like sit with it, however you choose to ingest it or use it, for whatever ails you. Now, I will say, this is an interesting thought, that even using it recreationally, the people that are not even thinking about this in an intentional or even in a medicinal way, I would still argue that though a lot of those people are using it in a medicinal way without even realizing it. Meaning, I have anxiety, I need to just bring it down a little bit, right? They're using it for that, but they may not be really connecting it, like, and knowing, no, this really helps my anxiety. A lot of people just say, no, just take it away. Like, they're not even giving it a thought, right?
But for some people, it actually spikes anxiety.
It can. That's right. And how does that happen? There are people, when I know we're gonna talk about the systems in the body and things like this, and this kind of all ties together. There are some people that produce their own bliss molecule in their bodies. They make enough of it by adding more. Doesn't necessarily, for those people, make them more blissful. It actually can cause anxiety. But that is why it is so important to know that there are other cannabinoids that can be used to balance this all out, and other cannabinoids that are probably better for what the outcome, what you're looking for. And so that's being intentional, even from a physical standpoint, like of the plant. The plant is so much more than THC. It's so much more than just the cannabinoids that it contains.
Yeah, take us away right there. Most people know THC, CBD. That's like the two things that we hear about.
Yeah.
And
but we know, as of right now, about 100 different cannabinoids. But we've only studied just a handful of them. We don't even know what a lot of them can do yet. But you like you mentioned THC and CBD. CBG is another cannabinoid. It's probably one of my favorites. It's the mother cannabinoid. It's like, think of like the umbrella. When the plant is growing, there's like a period where everything is CBG. And then the plant decides, will it be more of this or more of that? But in general, when the plant grows naturally, which it used to do, which it does in a lot of places in the world, it in general has a balance of all these cannabinoids. Hence, in these cultures, yes, they use cannabis all day long. That doesn't mean that they're high all day long. They're probably just in balance, in great homeostasis all day long. So on that note, in talking about that, should we lead in and talking about the endocannabinoid system? Because that's kind of, we're almost getting there, but unless you have another question, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious myself, because like 90% when I use it myself, I use it for automatic writing, because how it happens to me is kind of, it seems to bypass my logical everyday brain. Yes. And it seems to open pathways that my automatic writing, my channeling, my journaling, my intuition just flows better. And like maybe
and so that, so you have really discovered on your own intentional use of it.
Yeah.
Just as simple as that. You notice what it does for you when you want to create, the same way that people notice, like, hey, I'm feeling this, I need to just handle it, and not to think of it as a way to numb you out.
It never chilled me out. Yeah. Like I was always thinking of myself like as the most unusual user, or like the most unusual.
You're not unusual. My husband, it actually, it peps him up. Well, I shouldn't say peps him up, but it makes him very even keel. He can tend to have just normally just, the foot tapping on the floor, just have that energy, and it just evens him out. I don't even know when the last time was that I actually saw him high, because it doesn't hit him like that.
No, for me, it's the other way around. It gives me energy. It makes me more jittery. I have to make sure I'm not taking too much. Otherwise, my heart gets, intense. And it was way more when I still used it together with tobacco, which is a very European thing.
Yeah.
I just had to quit that at some point, and I quit it altogether. And then somebody gave me a vape at some point, and I tried it. It's like, oh, that's a completely different experience than mixing it with tobacco.
Right. And so think of it this way too. Even in lieu of mixing it with tobacco, you can mix it with more CBD flower, or even having CBG flower if you're ingesting flower, or even with tinctures. It's you can get blends of different cannabinoids together. That is really the key. And if I am to just say, hey, if you have not combined different cannabinoids together, you should really try it. It's a game changer in this. And I do want to point out, when you mentioned vape, okay, because here in the States, when you mention vape, most people think of a vape pen that has the oil in it, right?
That one killed me one time. That wasn't fun.
Oh,
that wasn't fun at all.
I don't want to poo-poo people using it. The only thing that I will say, that if this is the way that you choose to use it, now you have to remember, these vape pens are like 80-90% THC, unless you purposely source something that's a 1-to-1 or a blend, which is not easy to find. But if you choose to use a vape pen, please, please, please find something that has live rosin, which is literally just the oil itself. It hasn't been extracted using butane. CO2, not so bad of an extraction. But still, if you want to just have the pure from the plant, live rosin is what you look for. And what that is, if you think of it this way, they take, let's say you have your bud of flower that literally gets pressed between two plates that are hot, and it gets pressed in the plate, and the trichomes melt out, and that then gets scraped up and becomes the oil. So it's pure, very pure. It doesn't, like I said, there was no other chemical or no other way to extract it. So folks, please, vape pens, live rosin only, okay? But when you were speaking about vape, we're talking about this right here, or a device similar to this. These are called dry herb vaporizers. Basically, what's so great about this is that there's a little oven in the bottom, and you never have direct fire lighting the material. It's just an oven that heats it up. And what you get from that, you do not get, like, I'm sorry, but now I've been spoiled now with this. You smoke a joint, it tastes like an ashtray. You literally, if you're buying your flower, this is the best way to get to taste what you bought, smell what you bought, really just, you get to smell the different kinds. Like right now, you can't, when you have a joint, you can't really smell and taste the differences. But with this, you can. So you get a little spoiled, but I really like it. It's very clean too. Clean, for your lungs and everything. So this is really a great way to, if you're going to do ingest by smoking, it's really a nice way to go.
Okay, perfect. Let's dip into the endocannabinoid system.
You're so cute. Endocannabinoid system. Okay. So what if I told you your body already makes its own cannabis?
I heard of that.
Poof, right? Mind blowing. What the heck are you talking about, Kristin? Well, the endocannabinoid system was only first discovered in the 80s. And how it was discovered was very interesting because there were scientists that were actually studying THC, discovered that THC was attaching to certain receptors that were never found before. And they're like, what is this? This is completely different. And then at the same time discovered that our own bodies create what we are calling our own endocannabinoids that match the same shapes as these molecules like THC and CBD. And they discovered two particular receptors that in the body called CB1 and CB2. CB1 is the biggest of the two receptors. It does the most. It controls your central nervous system. And CB2 is more about the immune system. So if we think of this like a lock and key system where the receptors are the locks and these molecules are the keys, and they are different shapes. And so they search for the locks in which they will fit. So if you have a deficiency in something, now this is a theory that a very famous Dr. Ethan Russo he does a lot of studies for probably 30, 40 years in Israel on cannabis. And he has been studying about, an endocannabinoid deficiency. So pretty much if you're able to do a testing to find out where am I lacking in endocannabinoids, if I'm not producing enough, you could supplement with something to help with that. So in his studies focused mostly on migraines, fibromyalgia, and IBS. And those three conditions a lot of times will come comorbid, or when you have one, you have a higher chance of getting the others. So in those three, he was seeing that people that would supplement intentionally, like, okay, take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and how do you feel? How is your body functioning? Is it functioning way better? Just all of that. And it seems to be the case that, yes, some of us are deficient in some of these things, as well as some of us make too many of them. And our bodies in this endocannabinoid system, we discovered that there are molecules that are there to eat away at the extra as well. So there is a small population of people that do make too much, that don't maybe have enough of these molecules to eat them up, which if they ingest, it may not be an enjoyable experience. Now, this is mostly using higher THC, which is why, there's so many ways to consume cannabis. And, don't get me wrong. I like to feel a little high once in a while, but I will say I am a better human by how I feel, and more grounded when I combine the cannabinoids together and almost do like a microdose during the day, just a little bit, boom, boom, just 3 times during the day. I'm not high, but I'm able to be a little more focused. What else can I tell you about the endocannabinoid system? So I mentioned before, wait, let me step back a bit. So the endocannabinoid system, basically this regulates everything from your mood, your pain perception, your appetite, and your memory. So this is really the umbrella. When this was discovered, it was such a big deal. It's really the umbrella for all other systems in our body. So now the next question is, how come most people don't know about this? Why don't doctors know about this? And unfortunately, at least in our country, in the United States, you know, the curriculum for medical schools are pretty, it's pretty locked in, unless there's some little bit of new research to enhance part of that curriculum. Learning about the endocannabinoid system would be basically, okay, let's start over and see where all this fits in. And only about this is maybe about 8 to 10 years ago, only maybe 6% of all medical schools even teach it. Hopefully this will change. I think it will. You know, it's taking a long time, but I think now with descheduling and making this plant making it easier to do more research on it and whatnot, will help open those doors more. So,
how can you find out? How can you find out if you produce enough or too much? Or is it easy to find out?
There isn't a test for it. So, you know, that's why, you know, when people want to move into, how do I get started with this to find out if this will work for me? Well, the one thing I will say, that if you're able to use a cannabis coach, that's excellent. But if you're not in that position to do so, low and slow. And what does that mean? Low and slow means, okay, let's start with, what is your preferred ingestion method? Do you want to inhale? Do you want to take tinctures? You want to pop a gummy or an edible? You know, starting there. Now, there are pros and cons to all of them, depending upon who you are, your life, and how you work, and, you know, how you are within your world. So let's just say it's like, oh God, I feel this coming on right now. And you need to, it's like, inhalation comes on the quickest, 5 to 15 minutes. But once again, combining the cannabinoids, not just sit there and run right for the high THC, like start just blending it a bit. Do 1 to 1 to 1. Or if it's during the day, what I like to do is CBD and CBG will be higher, THC will be lower, sometimes not even adding additional THC, because these cannabinoids, when I get them, I make sure that they're full spectrum, which means they have just a little bit, like 0.3% or less. And these are products, this is why you can go online and buy CBD and CBG flower and tinctures and products like this. Due to the Farm Bill in the United States, they can ship over state lines. But that little bit amount is just what you need to help open the receptors for these other compounds to come in. So in the beginning of the day, stay higher with these non-psychoactive cannabinoids. And then as the day goes on, maybe as you lean into your evening, maybe it's a little heavier THC than this. And that might ease you into sleep. THC, you know, I'll tell you, menopause and hot flashes, I'm not saying it's like spot on, it's going to take care of it all, but I will say that it drastically helped with hot flashes, drastically, because it does help to lower your internal temperature a little bit. And it's just enough to sort of just kind of take that edge off.
I'm curious how people can actually find out. You know, I mean, in some states in the US, I guess you have these dispensaries where you can
this is the unfortunate thing with dispensaries. And and you know, and you can't blame them, because it's supply and demand. What is the demand when people go into dispensaries? Most of the time is like, what's the highest THC I can get? Like flower and everything, which that's just very unfortunate. And you can't go into a dispensary. I mean, in Oregon, I was in a couple different dispensaries where they did actually offer like 1 or 2 CBD and CBG flowers in the mix. They actually would have some. They had products that had different cannabinoids in combination. Excellent. But people aren't educated on them. People aren't looking, they're not going to, you know, a lot of people don't even understand. It's like they see CBD oil, but don't understand, you know, there's CBD flower that you can buy. You know, there's CBG flower that you can buy, you know, and CBN. I don't know if you've heard about CBN. This is the sleepy cannabinoid. But this cannabinoid is very different, because it actually is produced by, it's THC that's been degraded either by heat or by light. So you could have a whole bunch of THC flower that you grew and you don't get through it real quick. Like it sits for 6 months or a year. and you take it, it's like, wow, it's really making me high. And I'm like, now, is it making you high or is it making you sleepy?
Mm.
It might be making you sleepy because some of those cannabinoids have changed over. And I will tell you, miraculous for sleep. That CBN in combination with CBD and a little CBG is fabulous for sleep. CBG, probably better for pain than THC without being high. Also gives you clarity, great for depression, great for anxiety. A lot, and CBG with CBD together, it's like these compounds, their magic really happens when they're combined. And so at the end of the day, kind of circling back, going 360, this is how the plant is naturally grown, all in balance. We were the ones that started playing with the plants and breeding it to be high THC, breeding it to be high CBD. You know, we wouldn't really have to do that if we would just let nature do its thing.
Nature is always doing its the best. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned a few different use cases. So I'm curious, what kind of people usually come to you and use your services, and what do they come for?
It just, seemed to be predominantly women, mostly women, I would say 60 and older, with the majority of them being in their 70s. A lot of them coming to me that, either due to our system here in the United States with medications and things, there may be something they can't, I'm like, they either cannot afford a medication to take that every day, or they choose like, I just don't, I mean, yeah, it takes care of this, but now I have this.
Side effects.
Side effects of things. Yeah. And they're like, I just, would really like to know how to use it. And getting back to the dispensary thing, this happens all the time when working with someone. I went into the dispensary and I told them what my symptoms were. This is what they gave me. And pretty much what happened, they got home and they were couch locked. They just just like, well, that's not living, And so a lot of these people then think that is what it is. And that's unfortunate. So I help work with them to start low and slow, microdose a little bit during the day, using that same protocol of like, okay, higher CBD, CBG balancing, depending upon, I do take an intake form to find out things about them. And side note too, getting back to the wellness part of this, it's never all about one thing, right? So you can't just take something, and I don't care what it is, cannabis, a medication or whatever, and think that's going to take care of everything. If your diet is a standard American diet, you're not getting up and moving at all. You're not handling your mindset. You're not present. You're just all over the place.
So if I would come to you in a first session, how would such a session go?
Sure. First session. So after the intake form, like I literally, the intake form is just finding out give me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What do you eat on a daily basis? Mm-hmm. What kind of movement do you take in? Do you have a mindfulness practice of some sort? Do you enjoy your family? Like, what are the fun things? What do you like to do? Do you like to be with your family? Do you, friends? What does that look like for you? What is the joy? Where is the joy in your life? And, that's where we start. And then when we meet, and medications, like knowing that too, because I am not a doctor, and I encourage people, please be open with your physician about exploring use of cannabis, because there are interactions with medications, particularly anything with, heart meds and things like this. It can potentially, if you use this correctly, and this is why it's very important to work with your doctor. And if you're on a medication, it's not that maybe you can't take it with it, but then be mindful with your doctor, like, okay, let's test. It's very possible you could titrate down on your medication, if not be off of it altogether. But let's just say be able to be on a lower dose. That's fantastic. So we really go into this on a weekly basis, and each person is different. If it's 8 weeks, 12 weeks, we there's always something we focus on every week. There's always a task at hand, to work on.
So you help them with diet and with exercise and with mindset, and you use
mindset.
cannabis as one tool in your tool belt.
Yes. And when we're talking about diet and things, there's nothing dogmatic about it. Someone's coming to be vegan, we focus on that. I'm not, and if you're eating, if you're not someone who's really dialed in, if you're not vegan, vegetarian, let's just say you're an omnivore, well, let's look at that. Let's dial that down. Like, what kind of oils are you using to cook? Which that would go for anybody, right?
Exactly. It's always whole foods over processed foods, whatever diet you prefer.
Yeah. And here, someone comes to me and they say, oh my God, my gut. I have a lot of gut issues. Okay. And then I find out, so you order DoorDash like 5 times a week, your delivered food. What does that do to your gut? Okay. We know the food you're getting, probably not great for your gut, that alone. But doing that on a regular basis, I mean, there's a reason why preparing your own food, there is a whole process that happens digestively when you start preparing your food. There's a connection to the brain, starts releasing acids to the stomach to prepare for digestion. When you eliminate that whole sector, well, guess what? Your gut isn't ready to take in what you're giving it, no matter what it is. So just working on little things like that. And let's say after that, they really dial that in. They're like, okay, things are much better. It's just not that great. And it's like, okay, then let's look at your cannabinoids. Let's look at what we're working with here. Is there anything that we can adjust? Are you getting outside? There's all different factors. There is never just one panacea to all of this, no one silver bullet. So we try to do the best we can with looking at all the things in their life.
Do you know kratom?
I'm familiar with kratom. I have never taken it. I cannot give any guidance on that at all.
Right. It's the only thing I ever got addicted to in my life ever. I tried a lot of things a few times, but this is because it was the only thing I ever found that really chills me out. And as a hyperactive person, that is quite something. And it really felt like opening the veils on my muscles, like a muscle relaxation thingy. And it's like, just let the steam off, like this constant subtle tension that we are holding in our bodies, like it gets rid of that. And it's like, I'm so I quit about like 3 years ago, and I'm still tempted to go back every once in a while. Like, is there anything in the cannabis world that's like doing something?
Well, I mean,
I tried it with CBD, but I have to take a very high dose if I want to get in it. I sleep very fast. I don't get to really enjoy it.
So CBD oil is very interesting because it can be alerting at low doses, and you can feel a little more sleepy, more sedating with high doses. So that completely makes sense. I would say that would be where you would combine it with CBG. I would combine the two for sure. And I would put in a little, because of you, particularly from what you have just told me, I would add a little more THC to the mix, but I would definitely get CBG in there. CBG will help you. CBG can be very relaxing, like if it's used during the day, but it could be alerting in the evening for some people. You just have to, it's a trial and error thing. And that's a whole other thing too. It's not a one size fits all at all. And that's why going to dispensary is just such a disservice if someone's really looking to use this as medicine. Not great. I mean, it's getting better. I will say bud tenders are becoming a little more educated, but there's so much more that could be happening in that department.
And where do you source your medicine? Or you're not giving the people the medicine itself?
No. I just suggest to them. We start with a very low and slow protocol, depending upon the severity of whatever it is that they're dealing with. It might be 3 times a day or up to 5 times a day of microdosing. What will happen is they will let me know where they're located. Hopefully they're in a state where it's legal. I can only suggest. The CBD and CBG products, you can find reputable places online to buy from. To get THC, they tell me where they live. If they're in a legal state, then I will look in their neighborhood. I will go online. This is lovely, being able to go online and visit. They're online now because a lot of them even do deliveries in some states. And I can peruse the menu and just and then even make phone calls to them and say, hey, do you happen to have a terpene profile? We haven't even talked about that part of the cannabis plant, right? Terpenes, just quickly, the essential oils of every plant, every plant has terpenes. And if you think of essential oils, like you go to buy your lavender, right? Well, there's actually a compound in cannabis that is in lavender. The terpene is called linalool. And that is a terpene that can be found in cannabis that can help be relaxing. So where I would love to see things go is where you would go to a dispensary and there'd be an actual terpene profile of what that flower has, because that can direct your experience. That is so helpful. And we only have, some places do have them. Some states are better than others, but it's still not great. And the only thing we can do is we go online and, oh, okay, it's this certain, well, we call strains. Well, we shouldn't really call them strains, but that's a whole other conversation. But we can just go online and say, oh, Blue Dream. And I type in, what are the common terpenes in Blue Dream? Okay, they're the common terpenes, but Blue Dream grown in California is different than Blue Dream grown in Colorado, different than Oregon or anywhere else. So we just do the best that we can in working with that. But terpene profiles would be just fabulous to be able to really help people that have different ailments and just dial it in, like, okay. And even in the pain department, there's like 5 different terpenes for pain. Well, people go to the dispensary and they try something and they're like, that didn't work for me. And even if they knew what a terpene was in that plant, I'm like, well, here's the thing. And they're like, I'm so overwhelmed by everything. Well, the good news is, I'm like, I know the world of cannabis is huge, but you know what the beautiful thing is? The world of cannabis is huge, which means this didn't work. Well, guess what? We've got at least 4 more terpenes that we can look at, predominant terpenes that could probably help we find something else. So, yeah, plant world, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, definitely want to go meta towards the end of this conversation. We are both working for the same project, NETPOSITIVE Village.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, how do you see integrating that knowledge, or even what could we do within villages to expand the knowledge and expand the possibilities that are still hidden to society mostly?
Right.
Well,
in the villages and
building,
even in the world, just even in the world in general. I mean, I personally, I'm living in a village here let's say here in the States. Okay. I'm living in a village here in the States. I personally already have thoughts of how I can do a certain type of, I don't want to call it a retreat but just do a reset. Let's say it's someone who basically, let's say they ended their treatments for cancer and they're like, I just need 3 weeks I need to just get things in order. I'm like, well, come to me and let me nourish you in all ways in one. I'll feed you well. Let's get some gentle movement in, or whatever your capacity is. And let's use the plant in an intentional way and see if this can really uplift your mood. Maybe if you're feeling a little lethargic, maybe we can figure out how to get a little bit more energy, just enough mentally to get you going. And, something that they can take back with them and continue, So I will just say that learning about the plant the way that I have and all of this stuff and using it intentionally has made me such a much more better human on this planet. It has. So if other people, just through education of it, like holding classes or just doing a webinar and get people just a little education where they feel empowered or feel more relaxed about using it, that is really my goal. And because I think it would, it would help. It would help I think it would just help everybody.
Is there anything else that you would love to transmit while you now have the chance to speak to the world?
So my coaching, I kind of took a hiatus from it during big life changes and moving a lot. And, you know, I want to lean back into it. It's not like I'm just open the doors, full blown business. But if anybody has any interest and has any questions, I'll just give my personal email address is KMULE, or it looks like kmule. My last name is Mulé, but spelled like mule, kmule@live.com.
I will put it in the show notes so people
Yeah,
can
that'd be
find
great.
it.
That'd be great. Yeah. Yeah, I would, yeah, if someone needs any help, I just, you know, I just love to share. And then if we work together, we'll figure that all out. But yeah, I'll, you know, give any information that I can to help anyone at this point.
Beautiful. Yeah, your love for the plants really shines through. And
Thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you for spending some time with me and enlightening us about this medicine and giving us some more context. And I'm also really excited to bring it into the villages and grow it there and
Yes.
more experiments with it.
Yes.
And see how it can support also the health and wellness centers that we're building into these villages, and how can that become a part of that.
Imagine having a cannabis dinner. I'll just plop that little nugget. A cannabis
like
dinner.
Things that have
Maybe
cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's easy to overdo, isn't it? I could imagine.
It's no different. I mean, you have to be very mindful. But once again, remember, cannabis is not just THC.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? So same thing. Maybe you start off with something higher THC, but then we balance it off with the CBD, which that is, if there's one thing I do want to point out, if someone is having, they feel like it's a little too much, they've taken in a little too much THC, have some CBD oil on hand or something CBD, and just to try to balance it out. It's not going to totally take the high away, but it may take some of the side effects of what you're feeling, may calm that down a bit. Chewing on a peppercorn, believe it or not, the terpenes in a peppercorn can help with that. And lemon juice. So just a few tidbits there if you're feeling.
I could have used that in the past. Now I'm more mindful with but I once, one of my exes, he prepared a space ghee. He made a ghee in a slow cooker and cooked some.
Oh boy.
It was the first night I stayed over at his place, and he's like, do you want a bulletproof coffee with some, you know, like after he was like, sure, whatever. But give me a little bit. I want to go to singing and dancing and whatever. I have a full day ahead. We went to breakfast and it hit and it hit and it hit.
Boy.
And it hit and it didn't stop hitting. And I was like, oh my God, can you please walk me home? I need to lay down. I can't do it. And I had to close my eyes, nothing.
Yes.
It was so hard.
Yeah, it can be very uncomfortable. So, and for some people too, taking a very hot shower, for whatever reason, a very hot shower, but peppercorns, lemon juice, and CBD oil. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Kristin, thank you so much. Safe travels for your day. I know you have travel ahead, and I see you very soon.
See you very soon.
Much love.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.